the first to know Nsem-Pii TV.
Some people opines with the fact that the OSP Kisi Ajaban is incompetent and doesn't know what he's doing. So you call graphiconline.com, GhanaWeb.com, a idea on my report. A former employee sues OSP Kisi Ajaban over a wrongful dismissal. Now, I was for case I know a day. A former staff member of the Office of the Special Prosecutor has dragged the Specialized Anti-Corruption Agency to court for terminating his appointment without giving him a hearing. A former worker, your friend Mark Kwaku Asiedu Atta, filed a suit at the Human Rights Division of the High Court of Accra. No, a deputy staffer officer, our OSP office, challenging the grounds for the withdrawal of his appointment by the OSP. Now, this is a worker OSP Ankasana employee in the year 2023, whilst NPP was in government. Now, Asiedu Atta was a former worker of the National Intelligence Bureau, the NIB, but an appointment terminated in 2016 on the grounds of maybe some misconducts, some incompetencies will be in him. He assessed that his prior termination from the NIB was thoroughly discussed during his job interview with the OSP in 2023 before being hired as an investigator. Now, OSP EP investigator, and Asiedu Atta he also vary for the position because no experience with investigation, but with the NIB, but you terminating no appointment based on certain things. Now, at the interview before his employment, Okana no musu to mwanfansie OSP say, ono waye adwuma NIB na mom omapam no na omagina di. Emma enu nyina achi no OSP bunani gu so employ no. Now, he contends that after being suspended for a week due to an ongoing investigation, he was not given an opportunity to appear before a disciplinary committee before his appointment was rescinded in June 2025. Now, case no say na case no tie. Onya employment e wo ASP ho no e na started say wo mu ye adwuma. So there was this scandal going on in the scholarship secretariat. Now, scholarship secretariat one investigations OSP na de share nsa say wonye. But along the line, there was a scholarship secretariat boss yakwache no. Now say yabeche no so a na say OSP and they initiated that arrest but he realized say the OSP had an intimate relationship with the scholarship boss secretariat boss and never be MP. So OSP realized na oye ne friend nti ochina him pursuing the dream of becoming an MP would be in the trash. And nti OSP efa kwan bi so dismiss investigator no and na ono na siw no e court no. Say na be a case no ano bewu. Now, he added that the OSP letter of withdrawal of service, which revoked his appointment on grounds that he only became aware in 2025 that he had been dismissed from the NIB in 2016 and as such was ineligible for employment at the OSP, was disingenuous since he had already disclosed this during the interview stage in 2023. Now, this is the case. Avanti no say, we had the interview for the position of the investigator. at the OSP no catch them say on why you NIB pen and you dismiss no. But mo bu money go so and I'm employer no. Afei along the line na investigation adwuma yɛ mu no ɛna mo suspending no ɛna mo san bɛka kyerɛ ne sɛ saa NIB dismissal na ɔkaa no wɔ interview ɛno nti moagye no adwuma. Now say the crux of his argument is that having been aware of the facts at the point of recruitment and having employed and confirmed him thereafter, the OSP was and stopped from relying on the same facts to justify the withdrawal of his appointment, adding that he was never given an opportunity to be heard before his appointment was withdrawn. Now, Obi aka sɛ sei na mayɛ ɛna yɛaredraw me afiri NIB. Mobu mo ani agu so employ no. Mo employ no wie a, ɔstarte adwuma a mo san bɛka kyerɛ sɛ yɛyi no adi based on saa nsɛm no a mo ara mobu mo ani gu so na mo employ no ɛna ɔse ɛno deɛ ɛnyɛ ade a ɔbɛte aseɛ. So ɔmoma saa reasons no a ɔnte aseɛ. Na ne suspicion ne sɛ case na investigate no OSP ɛwɔ personal interest, conflict of interest bi wɔ mu. So that decision of the OSP to rely on a known and previously accepted fact to now justify the withdrawal of my appointment is an abuse of discretion and a violation of my rights. That I'm advised by counsel and verily believe same to be true that a public institution can not rely on its own inactions or oversight as a ground to deprive an individual of employment or protection under the law. Here they're saying the actions of the OSP has caused him great injustice and irreparable damage to his professional reputation. Now, reliever was seeking court in here. I say he is therefore praying the High Court for a declaration that the OSP withdrawal of his appointment letter without a hearing and based on previously disclosed information is unfair, unreasonable in a breach of Article 23 of the 1992 Constitution. Now, ɔse court ɛnka sɛ withdrawal na OSP yɛɛ no ɛyɛ unlawful. It is unlawful because the Constitution per Article 23 no doesn't allow that. Well, if the OSP at the beginning of the interview or in the course of interview had the capacity to deny his employment, na ɔmo bu ɔmo ani gu so employ no, ɛde nti na ɔmo employ na wie na ɔstart yɛ adwuma. Na afei na ɔmo abɛka kyerɛ ne sɛ based on the reason and information provided here, ɔmo ankasa provide discretion on the matter. Na ɔmo de ma no appointment no, ɔmo asan atwe no ase saa ɛno nti court ɛhwɛ no ɔmo ni n'asɛm ma no. Ɔsɛ a declaration that the OSP action in withdrawing the applicant's appointment letter dated without due process amounts to a violation of his right to a fair hearing and right to administrative justice. The applicant stated in his writ, which was filed by his counsel, Derek Abuaji Asamoah, he also wants the court to issue an order for him to be reinstated or in alternative payment of compensation in a lump sum and a payment of compensation for the infringement of his rights. Now he wants the court to order OSP either to reinstate him na obesan yakoye na adwuma anaasɛ for the violation of his rights for the unlawful termination of his appointment, OSP will pay a lump sum of money, large sum of money, to compensate him for abusing his rights as a citizen, for abusing an administrative rights, and all that. Now, this is the lawsuit between the former worker of the OSP and the OSP. So the OSP has to appear in court. So, the High Court ahyɛ OSP 14 days. Say, won't appear in court to justify his case. If not, Bibi Bayano na and someone I
that he's worked the national security before. At some point in time, his employment was terminated. The Office of the Special Prosecutor advertised for the processes he applied, and then he was shortlisted for interview. He disclosed that he worked with the national security before, and at some point in time he had issues. His appointment was terminated. Gave them the reason. They shortlisted him. He appeared before the committee, justified that particular process termination, and he went through all the processes and passed through. And then he was employed in 2023, put on probation. After a year probation, he was confirmed, was given a proper confirmation letter to start his job and all of that. Then fast forward, he was assigned to the Scholarship Secretariat scandal. He investigated the matter at some point, dealt with the processes and all of that. Investigated, and some persons were arrested in relation to infraction that took place at the National the Scholarship Secretariat and all of that. Then at some point in time, the whole process was asked to be put on hold. Then he started facing some victimization. Upon victimization, because at some point in time, the executive officer, the chief executive officer of the Scholarship Secretariat, Kingsley Ejeman, was going to be arrested. And at the same time, within that same 2024 there, he was contesting for parliamentary seat at Ebuakwa North. And so that particular process was put on hold. Then fast forward, after the election, he's received a dismissal letter. And then he thinks that he was not given a hearing. Unfair. And so he's even implicating the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the Special Prosecutor himself in all these processes. So he's filed a motion on a writ at the Human Rights Court seeking some intervention, saying that his right has been violated. He ought to be compensated or reinstated by the fact that he was not given a fair hearing. So we follow through this, and then we'll bring you update on as and when this matter comes up again.
Okay, let's look at what's coming up with the Greater Accra Bar Conference.
Yes, the Greater Accra Regional Bar. They're holding the maiden conference.